Good morning. Good morning. This is Alicia. You saw the title. I am here to share my testimony about how God delivered me from marijuana addiction. I am having to redo this video because the last one I did it was quite long-winded. So I'm gonna do my best to get to the point and not make this so long-winded. But I was introduced to marijuana as a teenager by a family member. Um, I tried it, didn't like it because I wasn't getting the effect of it. I wasn't getting the buzz that everybody else was claiming to get, or I wasn't getting high. So I didn't see what all the noise was about. So um, thought, well, I decided that that was not for me. Went off to college years later, a few years later. Uh, went off. That was the dog. Went off to college a few years later, and you know what can happen when you go away for college. Left my parents in the house and didn't know how to act. Got there, got linked up with some of the wrong people. I called myself trying to smoke some Black and Miles. Realized that wasn't for me, so I started smoking Newports. Still didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't doing it right, so to speak. So I had some friends that the friends that I was hanging around with, they did that. They smoked weed, marijuana, reefer, whatever you pot. I don't know what they call it nowadays. Then it was just weed. I think in my mom and them day they called it reefer. But I had some friends that smoked that. Um, I tried it with them, but still couldn't get the effect. Got with this fraternity guy that I was talking to, if you will, and he showed me how to do it. Discovered I was doing it wrong all along anyway. He had me practice on the cigarette. Um, I was in this math class at school, and in the math class, every time we had a test or a quiz or something, I kept getting like a 75, 70 or 75 or something like that. I wasn't really doing too well. So one day, after I hadn't learned how to properly uh, smoke weed, I decided to give it a shot on the way to class one day. You know, some of the students, they were hanging out, in the yard, were on campus, and there was some legal things that were going on. There were some things that were not so legal that was going on. So anyway, they were having a little session. So I thought, okay, I gotta learn how to do this now. This is this. Let me get this a shot. Did got my. I saw then what all the noise was about. Got my first little buzz. Okay. And I remember how I felt on my way walking to class that day. It felt like the ground was moving. The first time I ever experienced what I felt like, and I liked it. Got to class, and it took me forever. The entire class period, even when class was over, I'm still working on this test because I was so zoned out. Most of the time, I was sitting there just staring at the paper, at least so it felt like. But I got an A on the test. So now I feel like I need this in order to pass this class. I feel like I need this in order to get my grades up, to keep my grades up. Now I done got addicted because I kept doing it. And it went from not just doing it, for class, but it became a leisure activity. And I continued to do it, and it had become a problem where, as I stated, I was hooked. It got to where I was smoking my life away. And don't let me tell you something. Don't try to um, downplay this. 'Cause, some would say, "Oh, a little weed ain't never hurt nobody." It wasn't no. no heavy hitters. You weren't doing crack, or you weren't doing cocaine, or you weren't doing meth or heroin or shooting up, or any of those any of them big boys. You weren't doing that. You know, I wasn't, but it was still destroying me. Okay. And it probably didn't seem to really affect my body like that physically, for one, because I was young, but it was destroying. I was destroying my life. I was smoking my life away. It got to where I felt like I had to have it just in order to go to sleep. You know, every day, multiple times a day. I that and along with a whole lot of other things that I was doing, that I started doing. I was, look. It's time to go home. It's just time. It's time to leave. It's time to go home and start over and get my life together. I had these spells where I quit and then start again, quit and start again, quit and start again, and quit and start again. You get it? So I went home, and for a season I was sober. You know, got home, linked up with some old friends that I did not know that did that, and met some new friends. Back in the cycle again. This time I'm worse, because now I done got a little good at it. I got, when I was at school, I was always among other people. So I was always with somebody that knew how to roll it up, or uh, with somebody else that knew where to go get it or who to get it from. Now I learned all the insides and all the and all the outs. I had a few resources, a few connections, and I learned how to roll it up myself. So now it ain't just with me with friends anymore. It's by myself, and I would spend the day smoking weed. I go to work because I needed to support my habit, you know, but I wasn't in a position to where I could do better, because I was so high. All the time I stayed high. I became known for that. That's what I did, you know. So it was a problem, but I did not. I didn't want to be like that, and it had become a real struggle. Uh, there are times that I let my lights get turned off because I done smoked up all my money. It didn't matter. It wasn't that I didn't have the money. I had it, but I smoked it all. I smoked it, bombing my mom and my dad for some gas money. I go over there to go get something to eat because I knew my mama done cooked that day. I go there to go get something to eat because I don't have any money, because, or if I did have a little money, I'm finna smoke that tonight. That's what I'm finna do. So, anyway, time went on. I started going to church. I didn't, I'm not going to say that I did not know well, I don't want to say I was familiar with the Lord, because that sounds really casual. Um, but I knew him from a little girl. I always knew that he had his hand on me, I talk more about that in more videos to come. But uh, so God, he wasn't a stranger to me. But so when I got home, I started going to this church, and they welcomed me. Over time, they learned that I had this problem, but they didn't judge me. They didn't kick me out. They didn't do none of that. They loved me. They did. They would have these altar calls, y'all, and I was down there at them altar calls every Sunday. Every Sunday, they'll lay hands on me. They'll pray for me, and as soon as I left, it was like it was a cycle. I'd be good for a little while sometimes, but as soon as I left, I was right back at it. I'm going to go smoke. As soon as I get out of church, okay, that went on for quite some time. It was like a never-ending cycle, going through the motion, you know. So fast forward, I kept going. Is the point that I want to make that point. I kept going. I kept going. Every Sunday about the same thing. I don't care who saw me last week. I don't care who had to say what about it. I was there. You know, probably even done fell out a few times and got right back up. Leave, go, just going through the motion. So one, I got pregnant. Let me add that in there. Over time, I got pregnant, and just because I got pregnant, that didn't stop no show. I kept right on smoking. If I can be for real, if I can be transparent, I smoked through the entire pregnancy. Do I condone that? No, I didn't. Do not. Okay, did problems come with that? Absolutely, it sure did. That's another video. So I don't recommend that for anybody. I had people telling me, these so-called friends, oh, you know what, it ain't gonna hurt. Well, it's okay. Or other friends. Um, oh, I did the same thing through my whole pregnancy. You know, weed make your baby smart. Somebody told me that, and so I didn't think that it was a big deal. You know, I thought that it was okay. Listen to me. It's not. It's not. Did complications come with that? Absolutely, it sure did. But that's another video. Okay. Um. So, but I did, and they kept finding the marijuana in my system. I almost lost my daughter, y'all. I almost lost her. They were prepared to take her when they did a drug test. The day that I gave her, they were telling me throughout the pregnancy, you know, we're going to keep testing you. If we keep, we're going to get defects involved. Let's just say that. And we're going to take her. That's what they were telling me. The defects were going to take her. And so the day that I had her, they were prepared to take her, but God stepped in. He intervened in that. That did not happen. That's another video too. We're going to keep this one moving right along. So, continued to go to church. Kept going down there to them altar calls. My daughter was born in April. So July, I don't remember the reason, but we had decided, my sister and I and a couple of friends that we went to church with, we had decided to do a Daniel fast. It wasn't real Danielish. We was calling it a Daniel fast in our ignorance. We weren't eating any meat and no sweets, but we was eating everything else. So it wasn't very Danielish, you know, but we made a sacrifice, you know. I don't remember what our motive was, or what we were. I don't remember why. But the plan was to do it for 30 days. And two of them fell off because it was the 4th of July. But my sister and I, we made it through through the whole 30 days of that. We made it through. So after that, I got some benefits of that. I got some good benefits of that. Even lost a little bit of that baby fat that I had. But I got some doors open that I had. Anyway, that's another video too. I'm trying to stay on point. I was trying to stay on track. Did the Daniel fast, or what we were calling the Daniel fast, and so over time I had continued to fast. Now, yeah, I'm still having my little weed, you know, but I'm really seeking the Lord about this. It got to where, and I was real personal. I was real personal with God about it. They that worship Him in spirit and in truth. They that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. And I was worshiping Him. I was bringing Him my truth. That's what I was doing. Be honest with God. You know, because He already know whatever your struggle is. It could be that this might not be your struggle. It could be marijuana. It could be you struggling with your identity, your sexuality, pornography, whatever the case may be. Food, you know, food. It could be whatever. But be honest. He move off honesty. Be honest and be real with him about it. I once I was sitting out on my balcony, and I was out there rolling up, and in me doing that, I didn't want to do what I was doing. I didn't want to do that. I invited Jesus to come out there with me, and my I didn't know much word then, but I said, because I know I didn't read it anywhere. I heard in church, or I heard somewhere that you sat at the table with sinners. You're welcome to come sit with me. Will you come sit with me? I was inviting Jesus to my smoke session. I'm not kidding. And I didn't realize, what I was saying, but I felt his presence. His presence had come, and I wasn't really prepared. I wasn't prepared, or I wasn't expecting it. Needless to say, I did not smoke that blunt that night. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't smoke it that night either, because it scared me. So I tried to run away from it. I went in the house, and it didn't get away from me. I wound up spending some time in prayer and worshiping that night. But I had my little stash for later on. The point I'm making with that is, be honest, be real with God. Even about that, another time I was in the, now at this time, because now I am reading my Bible, but at this time I was in the freezer aisle in the middle of the night at Walmart, and I wanted to smoke so bad that night, and I was asking God to help me get through the night. I don't need this to go to sleep. Help me to make it through the night. And I said, I read that for every temptation, you will provide a way of escape. I need a way of escape. I'm pushing that buggy through the freezer aisle, just kind of pacing, just trying to make it, trying to stay out of the house for a little bit, because as long as I was in the house, I was sitting there thinking about it. I broke. I left there. I said, forget this. I'm finna go smoke. Call every connection that I had. Didn't nobody have nothing. I had the nerve to low-key be a little upset about that. That was my escape route. God, he didn't allow it to. So I had to go to bed sober that night. And I did, But be personal. Be real with the Lord on that level, because he already know. So moving right along, we did that fast, but over time I continued to fast, and I started doing what we call a partial fast. I'll go a certain amount of time throughout the day without eating anything at all, and I continued to do that. But my motive was not to do that. I wasn't like fasting, trying to break free from this addiction that I had. I was just trying to be closer to the Lord, because I noticed a difference. I was just trying to offer him something, do it unto him. So, but as I'm doing this fasting, my appetite, my desires were gradually changing. And so now, versus me, doing this all day, multiple times a day, 6 times a day, 8 times a day. Now we down to 4 times a day, 2 times a day. Now we're down to twice a week, And my desires were gradually changing over time. And the friends that I had, I no longer desired to hang out with them anymore. Some of them fell off. They thought that I was acting funny, but some of them I had to verbally cut off, because we don't have anything in common anymore. And my heart is, I want to be free from this thing. I don't want to be about this life anymore. I don't want to be this example for my daughter. I don't want her to see me like this. I don't want to bring her up in this type of environment. So I continued. I kept fasting. So one night, I I was in my bedroom, and I was reading in uh, Matthew 11:28, when Jesus was saying, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden." Hold on, let me get it. I don't want to misquote it. He was saying, oh, right here. Come to me, all you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I read that night, and it was like those words just came alive. They just came off it penetrated my heart, and I felt the presence of the Lord come into my room like I've never experienced him like that before. I never encountered him like that before, ever. My daughter was in the crib, and I remember there was a song on the radio that was ministering to me, saying, "You will find rest." I was so tired. At this point, now I had come to the end of it. I was tired of the cycle. I really wanted to be free from this thing. That night, by the time when I cried. I cried all night long. I cried out to God all night. By the time he was done with me, I was halfway under that bed. All night. And that night, suddenly, it was sudden. It didn't happen at church, at the altar. He met me right where I was at, in my bedroom. He met me right where I was at, in my bedroom. It wasn't at a revival. It wasn't at, he met me where I was, and that he took that desire away from me. From that night in November 2008, I had no desire to smoke marijuana ever again. Suddenly gone. Suddenly. And ever since that night, from November in 2008, a night in November 2008, here it is 2022, October 2022, I have not smoked marijuana since. And don't miss it. I had to make some changes. I had to change some places that I was used to going. I wasn't going anymore, but I didn't desire to go there anymore. People that I was hanging out with, some of them I had to tell them, look, I'm not about that life. We can't even hang. It's not personal. Actually, one person, she kind of took it personal. She thought that she kind of took it personal. But then out of all of them, I had one friend that told me, when you get there, come back and get me. Until that day, her and I, we're still friends today. The point that I want to make is none of this. Some things only go out by fasting and prayer. You can go read that for yourself in Matthew 17 about the story of this man who had a son that was demon possessed, and he brought his son to the disciples, and the disciples could not cast the devil out. Jesus came on the scene, cast the devil out. Later on, the disciples asked him, why couldn't we do it? He said, because of your unbelief. But he went on to say that some things only go out by prayer and fasting. It don't matter how much prayer I had, didn't matter how much prayer I was getting, how much that I was praying. I'm not saying that all of that stuff wasn't effective or it wasn't working during my process of my deliverance from that, but the things didn't really start moving and start breaking until I started fasting. And it wasn't no one hit or quitter fast. We're gonna fast at the beginning of the year, at New Year's, when the church call a fast. Or just, I'm going to fast this one time and I'm going to be free from that. Can that happen? Yes, absolutely. It can happen. It can, but that wasn't the case for me. In I read in Joel 2, when the Lord, Joel 2, verse 12. I read it in the amplified version where the Lord was saying, "Come to Him with fasting, and weeping, and rending your heart." He was calling them to repentance. But what I like in the amplified version, it said, "You fast until every barrier is broken." Fast until it break. Whether you fast and you believe in God for deliverance for yourself, whether you believe in God for deliverance for a loved one, a family member, or someone dear to you. Sometimes it's gonna take more than one time. You know, sometimes you'll get it right then, but sometimes you gotta be consistent at it. You really gotta go at it. That's how. That's my testimony on how I was delivered from marijuana. I have more testimonies to come. Um, the point I want to make in this video, for some deliverances, you're going to have to start turning that plate down. Okay? I hope that this blesses you. I hope that you are encouraged. If you're struggling with this, God is able. Okay? You can't do it in your own strength. It's going to take God. Thank you for watching.